Hello and welcome to Rainbow Assured. I'm not Kerry King, I'm producer Cal. This is Kerry King from Rainbow Assured.
It is.
And today the turns have tabled. To quote Michael Scott, I'm going to be interviewing you, which is incredibly exciting and I'm really looking forward to.
Are we at Queer Biz as well, or just Rainbow Assured?
Sorry, yes, Queer Biz as well, of course, the Queer Biz podcast. Episode number...
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. We'll find that out shortly.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think it's 10. It might be episode 10.
11?
10 or 11. It will be an odd number, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Let's go with 11.
Let's go
Great
with 11.
Stuff. So today, not just because we couldn't get a guest, and it's not that we couldn't get a guest. We've got loads of guests.
We've got loads of guests, yeah.
It's just timings and logistics,
yes.
and these are all very busy people, and they can't all make 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning.
In Norwich.
So what we're going to do today is I'm going to sort of interview you, Kerry, about Rainbow Assured, and sort of to kind of turn the spotlight on you a little bit, and to give a little bit more of a flavour and a context. So when you go to networking, how do you introduce Rainbow Assured to people?
So I always say the same thing, and then I got told off for saying it. So the first thing I used to say was, "Hello, I'm Kerry King. I run Rainbow Assured. We educate people on businesses on becoming better LGBTQ allies for their staff and for the community, and we teach you how to give a shit all year round and not just in June." And that was always how I introduced it, and then I got told off for saying shit. So, okay, well, I suppose I could say something else. So now I just tend to say we empower businesses to become better or stronger LGBTQ allies. But I realise I don't want to just say, I want you to be better. Better seems like such a tame word in comparison to the kind of change I want to bring about. So we'll go with stronger, stronger allies.
And what does, in your eyes, sort of top level, what does allyship look like for business? What does allyship mean? Because it's this word, I don't think, if you're not in the community, you don't really get what it means. And if you're a busy business owner that isn't sort of ingrained in queer or internet culture, this word allyship probably may not mean much. So,
a bit of a mystery.
Yeah. So what does it mean to you, and what does it mean to businesses? So
I would say allyship as a terminology in general means to be a friend or a compatriot or somebody who is aligned with the same values. So ultimately, that's what we want for other businesses. But I mean, for me, being an ally is so much more. So if I saw an injustice in the street, I would want to intervene. Might be the wrong word, but I would want to say something. I would want to at least try and check if the person is all right afterwards. An allyship is being there for a community. I mean, it sounds a bit kind of cliche to say sort of for your fellow man, but ultimately that's what it is. The point is that equality should be for everyone, and until everyone is equal, nobody is. And an allyship is, I think, equality in action. So I would want to say that allyship for businesses looks like not just doing the right thing and ticking the right box, but living it and making it part of your everyday working processes, and just making sure that when people come into your workspace that they are welcomed. And if you see anything going on that is kind of side glances or snide remarks or kind of jokes behind their back, that you address it and that you make sure that the culture is a culture of welcome and safe spaces, as opposed to the bitchiness that it can be in workplaces. I've spent a lot of my life working in offices, and they're very bitchy places, and people have always got something to say about someone else, but they can also be the most supportive places, and people spend the majority of their working week at work, and yeah, that didn't make sense, but their week at work, and it's so important to feel like you are just Like a bra.
Okay.
Supported and uplifted.
Wow. Do you know that is a perfect analogy? I would take
Yes.
that. Would you say that allyship is making inclusivity a culture and not an obligation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're definitely the kind of the support through action as opposed to passive, like saying you're doing the right thing and not really doing anything about it. I do see an awful lot of people who say, you know, this is a safe space for, and then you go in there and I mean, I went into a charity shop recently and there was a sign on the door that said it was a trans safe space, and I saw a trans person in there, and I saw one of the staff members kind of make a comment to someone else and then, you know, point and giggle, and I thought, it's not a safe space. I mean, thankfully the trans person didn't see it, but I wasn't really sure at the time. I wasn't really sure how to approach it. I think I might kind of go back to them and say, kind of approach it from a management point of view and say, look, you know, this is something that you need to address. You can't say that you're a safe space and then not.
So talk to me about safe spaces then. What are safe spaces? Why are they? Who are they for? Why are they important to these people? So coming at it from, you know, a cisexual heterosexual male, you know, I would say that most spaces for me are safe spaces. You know, maybe not Dereham Road, you know.
Bit dodgy.
But would you explain that concept of safe spaces to me, somebody that has this privilege of every space being a safe space?
Yeah, that's true. It's a very different way to think about things, and I guess I have the point of view from being a woman in that not all spaces are safe for me, and also as a member of the LGBTQ community, and even honestly, just having blue hair makes me not in a safe space when I'm out in the street, because people use that to go, you're this, you're that, you're different, you're weird, you're, and I totally agree with them. I'm this, that, different, and weird, but to be made to feel. As for me, an unsafe space is to be made to feel that you are not. I keep saying welcome, but welcome is such a good word, in that that you cannot be who you are naturally. You cannot be your own personality or your own sexuality, your own gender identity, without feeling that somebody is making you uncomfortable, without feeling that somebody is potentially against you, without feeling that somebody is has a belief system that doesn't include you. It's, you know, and when somebody has a belief system that doesn't include you, or say, you know, all the stuff that's going on in America at the moment, and all the kind of outlawing of things and the taking away of privilege that they've spent decades trying to put in place, there's going to be an awful lot of people who don't feel that they have a safe space walking in their own neighbourhood. And I know, obviously, with sort of the slightly dodgier neighbourhoods in the world, there'll be a lot of people that don't feel that. I guess in that case, I guess that's how I would relate it to you. It to say, if you would walk through a dodgy estate and feel that you are potentially at risk, just for walking through there, that it would be, I think, the closest I could tell you about how to imagine that you're not in a safe space, and therefore what the difference is when you walk into Gerald's in the city and you're quite comfortable and you walk in and you get what you want and you browse and you don't feel like anyone's particularly staring at you, you buy what you want and you leave. That for me, I guess, would be a safe space, compared to walking through somewhere that maybe has a lot of drug activity, or, you know, a lot of high crime area, and how that would make me feel. I think that would be my difference, of an obvious difference of a safe space and an unsafe space.
Oh wow, that's really, really powerful. And how to ask the real simple questions? How prevalent are these occasions where people's fears are validated? You know, I think we live in quite an inclusive city in Norwich, but I recognise that maybe I'm looking at that through rose-tinted yellow and green spectacles, you know, and I'm incredibly privileged to not experience it myself. But also there is a sort of, you know, we've seen in the past sort of 12 to 18 months a rise in sort of homophobic abuse nationwide. So people might say, oh, you know, safe spaces is, you know, protecting people's feelings and things like that. But actually, how necessary and prevalent are these? How, just sort of maybe paint a picture for us at just how at risk people are.
So I would say if you feel that you do not have any problems at work and you have a safe space wherever you go, you are very naive and very lucky. Very naive to other people's struggles, that is. Excuse me. It's... Even if you take out the kind of really obvious aggressive stances that people perpetuate, and they people come across as very they don't want people like that in their city. Or I do think Norwich is a very inclusive city, and I think we're very lucky to live here and have the inclusivity that we do have. But ultimately, also Norfolk is is an ageing population county, and there are an awful lot of people. I'll go back to the elderly, especially because it was sort of a different time. There are so many of the older population who are absolutely perfectly accepting and just go, oh, well, yes, that's just how it is. But there are also an awful lot of people who aren't. And so the kind of obvious aggressions when you walk down the street can be, comments and sort of snide remarks and things to belittle and make you feel crap. You know, I mean, if I wouldn't want to walk down the street and go, oh, God, look at you, to someone's face, but that is what happens. A friend of mine had someone to say to him, what are you? That's awful. What are you is only something I might say to like a weird tropical fruit that I didn't recognise. I would never dream of saying that to a person. So things like that are kind of much more obvious when you've got things like homophobic attacks. I think we're much luckier in Norwich that we don't see the kind of out-and-out violence that is seen in other places. But also it does happen around, I guess, when you get around drunkenness and prejudices start to come out, start to become more obvious. And then you've got the good old microaggressions, which are just the little things. And they say, they call microaggressions death by 1,000 paper cuts. Because one paper cut isn't going to kill you, but think of 1,000 paper cuts in the same place, and that's really going to hurt, and it's going to sting, and it's going to be there all the time, like as a reminder that you're not welcome and that you're not enough, and people absolutely are enough. And so microaggressions for the LGBTQ community can look like things like, oh, he's just joking. Oh, you can't take a joke. Oh, you're too sensitive. Which one of you is the man? There's so many that are kind of pertinent to the LGBTQ community. And that's one of the things that we look at in the training is examples that are very specific to the community. So what I would like people to do is to kind of, they don't have to publicly say it, but recognise that they might have said things like that in the past, and then just kind of check themselves if they do it again and go, oh, actually, that was probably a bit aggressive and I perhaps shouldn't do that. And I just want people to kind of consider their language and the way that they look at people. So when Katie came on, she said that she has sort of the 3 rule, which is first time you look, that's fine, you look. Second time you look, you might take a double take. And she still says that's okay because, people then aren't sure what they've seen, so they look again. And then the third time you're staring, it's rude, it's not acceptable. And I thought that was a really good way to describe things. And Katie obviously coming from a situation where she gets stared at and commented at more often than a lot of people, mostly because I guess she's part of the trans community as opposed to just kind of gay or, you know, somebody who's maybe less obvious to outer society. And aggression is a really real problem for them. People just seem to think, they look at you and go, well, it's not something I do and therefore I don't accept it. I don't understand that. I look at a lot of people and go, oh, well, I wouldn't wear that. But, you know, fill your boots. I'm not criticising them for what they wear. I openly will say to people, I love that top. You look awesome. I love your hair. Because I want people to feel good and I want people to go about their day feeling uplifted and to think back later on and go, oh, that lady told me that I look really nice. That made me feel really nice. I think we should have more of that as opposed to, so for every bad remark either I hear or that I find myself saying and then I catch myself and tell myself off, I then make sure that I go out and give a good remark to kind of counteract that. So in my head I have this sort of ADHD internal tally going on of how many good things can I outweigh the bad with.
And actually I think there's something really interesting on that as well. Is I remember speaking to a counsellor once about sort of social anxiety and walking around in public and wondering what people were thinking about me. And I kind of had this sort of thought was actually, where does this idea that people are thinking and talking about me come from? Well, maybe it comes from some of the times that I think and talk about other people. And actually, if I'm perpetuating this reality where if I see somebody that is non-conforming to some kind of social norm on the street, I might make a comment under my breath or in my head or to somebody that I'm with. Probably more out of a jokey term to diffuse the situation. But I'm acknowledging that person's existence to myself. And actually, I'm then thinking to myself, well, if that's what I'm doing, then other people must be doing that about me. So actually, I wonder whether there's a lot of people that may find that it'd be quite freeing to maybe tackle these instances of comments and thoughts and triple takes. Is actually, if you create a world where this thing doesn't happen, at least an internal world, then you might feel a little bit more relaxed yourself and a little bit more confident yourself. Sort of walking down the street. Yeah. So I just wanted to bring some sort of numbers into, because we've been talking about sort of more emotive things as well. I've pulled up some numbers. So in the 10 years between 2022 and 2012, there was a 7x increase in the number of hate crimes reported to police around sexual orientation.
Wow.
So that's up from 5,000 to about 27,000.
Blimey.
So it's not just a small minority of things.
No, not at all.
And that's reported as well.
Yes.
You know,
so many, I would say 70%, even 90% go unreported.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about bringing it back to the business owner. So we've spoken about sort of the emotional impact of why this is needed. Let's sort of frame it in terms of the business owner. What's in it for them? You know, why is it important that they create these safe spaces for their staff members at work?
Okay, so I would say there are several reasons why this kind of thing is obviously a good idea and much needed in business. If for no other reason, it's tick box. If you looked at nothing else, this is compliance, this is diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI policies, this is corporate social responsibility. If you did it for no other reason as a tick box exercise, this is needed. This is something that every company should have. And then you move on to the people who are a little bit more concerned with the community, but really basically see it as the bottom line, which ultimately for a lot of business owners is the way that they go. A lot of people run a business to make money, and that's what business is about. So for those people, think how much more productive your staff will be if they feel happy in their role, if they feel included, if they feel that people aren't judging them and talking about them behind their back. If you have a workforce where people are bitchy and kind of one-upping each other all the time, I mean, I understand there's kind of a healthy competition to have at work with sales figures and things like that. But if you imagine that somebody feels so worried about coming to work that their mind is not going to be on work, it's going to be on how safe do I feel? You know, is my core being kind of in a good place? And how much work are you actually going to get done? You know, productivity levels are going to be through the floor.
If you're even showing up for work in the first place.
Yeah, I was just going to say absenteeism is going to be high, so staff turnover.
Average staff absence rate is currently around 8 days per employee per year, which is up from about 6 days per employee per year.
Massive difference. And it makes such a difference when these are people you've got. I mean, I'm guessing that most workforces have enough work to fill with their workforce. Well, you've got people going off sick through stress, and what they may not be saying to you is the stress is down to discrimination and down to bullying. And that's where, I mean, then the kind of material costs for a business really start to mount up when other people are having to take on other people's work, either because they're stressed or because they're off sick and they're not able to complete their roles, or because they're working from home because they're worried about coming into the office, and they're not as productive as when they're in the office, but they're happier at home because they're not having to face people in their situation. When people are then leaving work because they just can't take it. It's not a situation they want to face. They just would rather be in a nicer environment. You've then got the costs of rehiring and the work that's not being done while they're no longer there, or the fact that other staff are having to cover their jobs and they're not doing their jobs. The cost, material cost to a business is quite massive. And I don't think, when I'm going in and talking about Rainbow Assured, I don't think people are really paying attention to what the outcome will be if they don't take it up. I think they just look at it and go, well, I haven't got anyone gay in my workforce, so it's not really relevant to me. And that's so not the case. And then I suppose from a business point of view, so you've got the tick box, and you've got the productivity, reduced staff absenteeism, reduced staff turnover, greater staff loyalty, greater recommendations from staff, either for your business or for your workforce. You're opening yourself up to more a wider range of talent and diversity. And then the kind of innovation that can bring in is fantastic for the business. And then you've got workplace culture, which is massive. And I don't think enough businesses go, how happy are my staff? And it's not. I see businesses who just go, well, this is fluffy, and I don't need fluffy. I need to concentrate on, kind of hard facts, hard statistics, hard figures. The point is, you're not going to get those figures if your staff aren't doing a very good job. And if they're not doing a very good job, why aren't they doing a good job? Is it because they're not trained properly? Is it because they're unhappy? Is it because they don't feel comfortable? Is it because they walk into work and think, oh God, who's going to talk about me today? And if you could create a happier environment, and one where people felt like they wanted to be at work and they wanted to do the work because, even if it's not, the kind of the job of their dreams, you can be happy in a workplace and you can feel like it's a role that is supportive of your life, and it, financially rewards you for the work you put in. And then you can go out of your work and feel better. You're then not worrying when you're at home. You're not worrying about coming into work. You're then not getting the physical health problems and the mental health problems that come from worrying. There's so many benefits. And the impact on the mental health from discrimination, and therefore the impact on mental health of inclusion, is such a great topic. And I don't think enough employers are really taking into account how important it is. And for staff who are going to go in and say, well, I'm not gay, so it doesn't matter. And if they just go, oh, well, yes, well, we've got 20 staff and only one of them's gay. Well, yeah, but think about that one member of staff and how much better you could make their time at work. I think employers go, oh, it's only one person, so do I need to do it? You don't know how many of your employees have LGBTQ people in their family, in their friends. If you provide training to ensure that everyone is up to date on the best practice and diversity and inclusion policies, you can ensure that life is not only better for that one person in your staff, but for all those people who might be struggling to have conversations with their families, who don't know how to approach the dad whose 17-year-old son is kind of showing signs of being gay, and he just doesn't know how to approach it, and he doesn't know how to start a conversation. And then if that guy is then distracted because he's very aware that his son is very unhappy and is struggling, and he, then you've got the productivity of a staff member who isn't LGBTQ being affected by the same issue. And there is no way you're going to know who everyone in your staff has in terms of their immediate family and friend community, and just how incredible an opportunity this is.
And I think it's so easy to dismiss something that is unseen. And I love the sort of the point you raised about, if I've got a staff of 20 people and only one of them is outwardly gay, well, let's turn that on its head. Let's say that you had a staff of 20 people and only one of them was in a wheelchair. Well, you'd be expected to make your entire workplace wheelchair accessible.
Yes.
And even if you didn't have anybody in your staff that was in a wheelchair, you never know if you're going to have a customer come up who is in a wheelchair and needs things to be wheelchair accessible. So it's not about sort of pandering to one person. It's about creating a system within your business that has minimal roadblocks in it for both customers and staff. Because you said to yourself, you said it numerous times on the podcast, you never know who your next customer is going to be. And the last thing, I'm a business owner, and I'm lucky that we have a very small staff, sort of rota, and I trust all of my staff are very sort of clued up on inclusivity and things like that. But as a business owner, I would be mortified and ashamed if my staff did or said something. I don't want to use the word wrong, but inappropriate, disrespectfully, whether they meant to or not. Yeah, I would be mortified, because that is a direct representation of my business. When they are out, whether they are serving customers in my shop, I don't have a shop, but if I was a shop owner, if they were serving customers in my shop, or if they were out and about visiting or working with clients in their businesses, they are representing my business the entire time. Yeah. And I don't always know what client, what customer they're speaking to. And if they are making that customer experience not 100% satisfactory through some kind of either ignorance or prejudice, well, then that's not the kind of company I want to build. So actually, what I would say to a lot of these business owners is, what kind of company do you want to build? Do you want to build a company that has a reputation for being suitable for the maximum number of customers possible? Or do you want to have staff that are sort of vocally clumsy and might say something inappropriate, whether they mean to or not? They could just be anxious. I think you might be able to pick up on this. I wonder if there's a lot of people, maybe of an older generation, who maybe become quite sort of flustered when approached with somebody from the community, and actually in them not wanting to say the wrong thing, they may say the wrong thing. Is that something that you come across? And then maybe talk about how the structure of the course and the structure of the learning materials actually helps people move past that.
Yeah, so I do see people get flustered. And in fact, one of the things I hear most often from business is that they don't want to get it wrong, so they just don't mention it, which is totally unhelpful, because how is anyone going to get used to using the right terminology and reacting in the right way if you never practice it? Yes, and again, older people, and also just people who aren't sure, get very flustered and don't know what they're doing. So then, like you say, they then tend to get more clumsy in their wording when they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So the one of the things that we talk about in the training material is getting it wrong. It's called Getting It Wrong, and we talk about what to do when you get it wrong, and we practice. We have exercises that we work on in a group environment to practice gender inclusive language, to talk specifically about the business that particular business does, so that we can make it relevant to them, so that we can ensure that when people are using phrases like, instead of "can I help you, sir?" or "can I help you, madam," we could use "how can I help you? Is there something I can help you with? What can I help you with today?" There are a lot of ways to talk about things in a general assistance point of view that don't have to be gendered. And if you then, I don't know, I was thinking of like a car sales place. They're often going up to people and saying, "how can I help you?" And then when they bring them to sit down, they can say, "Oh, how would you like me to refer to you? Should I use your name?" And then invite the person to tell them their name, so that they're not then making any kind of clumsy mistakes. If you invite someone to tell you their name and to tell you what they want to be called by, they can do the work for you.
And it
all
takes
you then,
5 seconds.
Yeah, and all you then have to do is...
It's not adding extra hard work to you. It literally takes 5 seconds to say, "How do you like me to refer to you?" "Oh, I'd like you to use, you can use traditional masculine pronouns. I'm absolutely fine with that." Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. Lovely. Brilliant. And it takes 5 seconds. But actually, again, coming back to that customer relations point, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and feel free to challenge me. But if a gender non-conforming person or a trans person goes to buy a car, and that salesperson takes that 5 seconds to make them feel inclusive, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they might be more inclined to buy a car from that business than somewhere else that maybe didn't acknowledge them as a person.
Absolutely. I because I've got quite an androgynous appearance, I'm wearing bright pink today, but people often say to me, "Sorry, I said she. Is that right?" And I always say, "Yes, that's right. My pronouns are she, her." But it means so much that they've considered that. And I am way more likely to use them as a business. If I want to purchase something, they're the person I'm going to remember. And I would want to go back and make sure that I bought from them, because they are someone whose values I align with and who is showing consideration for me as a community member. And like you say, it takes no effort. I mean, all you've got to do is, and especially, I guess, gender non-conforming people and trans people can often be a little bit more obvious, as opposed to kind of traditional male-female roles. So you might get an idea kind of as soon as you see someone and go, "Oh, I'm not sure how I would want to respond, how I would refer to them." So initially, just use gender inclusive language. And then if you're going to get into a deeper conversation, ask them how you can refer to them. What would you like me to call you? And let them say. If it's someone who's gender non-conforming, and they use they them pronouns, it's likely they will tell you. If they said, "Oh, my name's Ash," if they were particularly bothered, I use they them pronouns, then you got it there, and by practicing it and by knowing how to get used to that kind of terminology, even if you just did it in a break room for 10 minutes, once a month, to help you get used to it. If you had other training courses and you could kind of tag that onto the end and say, "Right, let's practice using this particular terminology for a while," it makes so much difference then when you're putting it into practice and using it on a daily basis. I used to be terrible at using they them pronouns. I really struggled, and now I'm getting much more used to it. I'm getting better at it. I still make mistakes, but I'm getting better, and I hope that the people that I talk to appreciate and they can see that I'm trying, and that makes all the difference in the world. And most of the training course, so we offer a lot of kind of really practical information, positive information, ways that you can make a positive difference. We do point out kind of the negatives and what people are doing wrong, what businesses are doing wrong, but then we counteract that and go, but this is what you can do, right? I don't want to go in and kind of preach to people and say, well, you're doing this wrong and, you know, and you've got to do better. I want to go in and say, okay, this is how we are at the moment and this is what we could be, and imagine if we did this, how amazing you would make your customers and your staff feel. Let's work towards this, and then let's practice it, and let me tell you ways to actively implement that into your staff environment and ways to remind your staff that this is a very relevant subject all the time and that we're going to keep working on it so that we all get better at it. And I think that the training reflects that.
Excellent. And how can people get in touch? You know, if there's maybe a business owner watching this, or maybe a member of the community who feels that the company that they work for could benefit from this, how can they reach out? What does that process look like, from going from maybe thinking about working with you to sort of being fully rainbow assured? Okay,
so there's a couple of options. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn as Kerry King. You can find me on Facebook under the Rainbow Assured page, same with Instagram, and TikTok is either Rainbow Assured or Queer Biz. YouTube channel, again, if you just put a comment on there and you wanted me to contact you, we can organise that.
There's the website as well.
Website, www.rainbowassured.co.uk. And on the website, you've got a contact form where you can send, you know, if you say like you feel that your employer could do with some training or would welcome the training. Also, if you feel that there's a business that you've been to that particularly needs the training and you've had a very negative experience with them, that's something that we would be happy to do, to then approach that business and say, look, this is something that's come up. This is what we offer. Would you be interested? This has kind of this is feedback from one of your customers, which I think is a really good way to be able to approach a business and say, look, this has already been said. You know, we need to do something about this. And we have options. We have the Respect and Protect training modules. They're two separate modules. The Respect one does kind of more of the basics, and the Protect gets much more into the active allyship and practical things that you can do on a day-to-day. The Respect gives you kind of the basic information that you will need. I think it's really obviously useful to do both modules, but for each business it's going to be different as to what they feel they require. You can also then apply to become Rainbow Assured. So your business would receive a kind of digital badge that you can put on your website. And we have a backlink that goes back and forth between between our website and theirs. And if you then become Rainbow Assured, so you agree to meet a set of criteria, and which kind of uphold a certain standard of inclusivity and allyship. If you don't meet them straight away, it's not the end of the world, but you have to sort of commit to working towards them. So if you sign up to become Rainbow Assured, you are committing to working towards those criteria. And then there's 3 membership levels, the bronze, silver, gold, and obviously depending on the membership level, you can then, it's a yearly fee. It ranges from £125 a year to £500 a year. And then you can, depending on the membership level, you can choose the benefits that you want to gain from it, which can include things like templates of HR policies, posters to put up in your workplace, reminding people of appropriate language, reporting procedures. Excuse me. Potential appearances on podcasts, video sections on the website directory. So we have an online directory for businesses, so that all our businesses who become Rainbow Assured can go onto our directory, and then we can shout about them to our community and say, if you want to buy from people who actually give a shit about you all year round, not just in June, these are the people to do it. this is where you should spend your money if you want to spend with people who agree with the same kind of terminology, the same kind of values that you do.
Fantastic. And I think that's a perfectly wonderful way to bookend this episode. Is there anything that we haven't covered, we haven't said that you want to get on record?
Yes, I just realised that I forgot about the kind of affiliate opportunity as well. So there's a couple of affiliate opportunities. One for a company to be kind of like a sponsor or an affiliate of Rainbow Assured. So with kind of more opportunities for working together, for them to have a greater presence within the community that we can provide them with. So you can become affiliated with Rainbow Assured and be one of our partners. So that's an opportunity. And again, contact through the website. Or we also do affiliate marketing where if you are either a business who is already Rainbow Assured or you want to work for Rainbow Assured, sort of to sign up businesses, that's an opportunity. At the moment, kind of slightly voluntary opportunity because I only have a small staff. But with financial reward, there's a sort of percentage available on whatever level they sign up for that can be rewarded to said person who signs them up.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for delving into that. I think there's been some really, really interesting discussion. I know that's one of the things that I've definitely learned and I'm going to take away and think about. And I hope that for our viewers, there were some things in there that really made you think. And what I'd encourage people to do actually is if there was one takeaway they had from today's discussion, I'd love them to leave it in the comment section.
Yeah, that'd be
either awesome. on Spotify or YouTube, however you're consuming this today. I've been Callum Howard. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just look for this face on LinkedIn. This has been Kerry King from Rainbow Assured, and this has been an episode of Queer Biz. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.